Welcome to AI Talks, a place to come and listen to IBM customers, partners and colleagues talk about the digital organization and how AI, hybrid cloud and enterprise software is critical to success. Let me hand over to my colleagues to get us started.
Welcome to AI Talks. My name is Paul Russell. Another exciting podcast with really interesting people who are happy to talk to us about their role in technology, how IBM has made a difference, and really just explore what they think of the future of using technology to help industry. And joining me also is my colleague Steve Rooks from IBM AI Applications. Hi, Steve. So I'm very excited to be joined by Rajiv Bongirwar, who is the owner, I think, Rajiv, of Mirage Consulting. And it's lovely to have you join us today. Who are you? Where are you from? I know you've got a very interesting history, and I will remind you that you said the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. So if you can put that into your response, that would be really helpful.
Thank you very much, Paul, for having me. It's my pleasure as well. Thanks to Steve and Zoe for joining. I'll share a little bit about my story of life. When I was a young kid, my father was in the Indian Navy. We used to change house every 1 year, which meant as a kid, I had to be very responsive and resilient and adaptive to changes, to make new friends, to understand how the new teachers are teaching in different schools, in the different cities, in different parts of India with having different climate. Things moved on. I was challenged by my father when I was a teenager to join one of the toughest military academy in the world, which is National Defense Academy, only one which have officers from all the three services, Army, Navy, Air Force, trained together. And I was quite plump and fat, and I would do anything to stay away from physical exercises. So I wasn't fit, and I'm still struggling with that today. And he just challenged me to join the military academy, and I accepted the challenge. I went for the interview. I passed through the interview, came out with flying colors. It's a separate probably discussion on how the interview went. But after that, I had to pass the medical as well. And, I was deemed overweight and having an eyesight issues for the other services. In 1 month, Paul, I lost 20 kilograms. And it was a rigorous physical exercise. I was to go to a PT instructor, do yoga, do swimming twice a day. But I lost 20 kilograms in 1 month, and I passed the medical. And through an appeal process, I got into the Indian Navy in the technical branch. And 13 years plus I spent in the Indian Navy, where you are leading people. And, I didn't have the opportunity to be a part of a war scenario, and maybe I was fortunate to that. But really, the leadership and the different roles that you perform prepare you for different risks that you may need to anticipate, which means you become very disciplined, you are very thorough with contingency planning, and those are the skills that have really stood me in good stead in working for my employees, in setting up business units for them in new technologies, and later on setting up my own company into the UK. So interesting story about my journey on LinkedIn, and thankfully quite a few have viewed it. So coming to the technology aspects, and it has been my passion to make this world a better place for human beings by applying technology. And it's no good to keep it in research and development laboratories if they don't see the light of the end user using it in a real world environment. So I have been quite fascinated with using technology and also new tools. So we were doing a very interesting project for one of the tier ones for the Grand Cherokee, where me and my team, we developed the complete ECU software for a distributed body control module. I'm talking about 2002. There wasn't a company in India at the time who did complete ECU software development at then. And I used tools like Telelogic Doors, Rational Rows Real Time, Clear Case. I was playing around with these tools. and came up with methodologies of, creating state machines, having state machines and truth tables and Carnot maps to come up with different perspectives, to identify failures, to identify hazards up front into the design and development process to get the product right first time. And we were able to do this project in less than 8 months, which typically would have taken 18 months to 2 years for other from ECU suppliers, software suppliers from whom the quotations had been taken previously. So we not only did it in the time that was required, and we also were able to deliver the key features that were essential from a Carnot perspective, or an MVP, the minimum viable product. Because quality is about 3 dimensions: is the scope, cost, and time. If you give a zero defect product, you could claim a zero defect product, which you deliver 10 years later than it is required. And after 20 years, you would still know, because zero defect is just a notion, it's not reality. So it's important to be able to balance the 3 dimensions of quality to make sure the stakeholders' requirements are met. And this is what we were able to do. And this vehicle was showcased in Liberty, which was the Chrysler's concept showroom for all their advanced concepts. And back in 2007, I had, also wanted, because it's all about sharing with the industry, sharing your knowledge. So I captured the key elements of this process and methodologies that I used in this project and other projects. In 2007, I presented in SAE's conference. And there was also a paper that I wrote about methodology of reducing cost and time to implement complex electronic and software intensive systems.
Hi Rajiv, it's Steve Rooks here. You've had a really interesting journey. When did Hemraj Consulting start?
Hemraj Consulting was born in October 2008, just about a week before Lehman Brothers fell in the stock exchange. I didn't know anybody in the UK except probably a couple of people. I was selected for job opportunity with a tier 1 automotive supplier, which didn't materialize because my visa processing was delayed. So I came to this country without any job. I left my good old job in India, and I'd come with a one-way ticket with enough money for staying for a month. With this economic crisis following the Lehman Brothers fall, thousands of people were losing jobs. All migrants were going back to their home countries. Locals were losing jobs. I got worried phone calls from my family and extended family. And I said, look, when you are faced with a challenge, you can either succumb to it or you can use it as an opportunity. And I said, this is not the time that a company is going to give me employment. So the only way out of this is create a company and create job opportunity for others, not just yourself. I just formed a consulting company in October, and in 6 weeks' time, we got our first contract with Jaguar Land Rover. When I look back at it, I think I might be crazy, or people might say I was, a risk taker, because I had children who were quite, the elder one was 15, he was in year 11, and the younger one was year 7. So, and I didn't have any source of income when I came here in the UK, and didn't have a huge savings in my bank either.
What sort of work do you tend to take on with Hemraj? It seems to me, talking to you, there's a slant towards things like functional safety and things like that.
Yes, that's correct. So our primary focus is designing functional safety up front for the automotive and aerospace component systems and vehicles. So we are a pretty niche consulting, and we are only focusing on this topic, which of course looks at it from a holistic perspective of a 360 degrees systems thinking approach. And we help organizations right from the concept phase to design functional safety up front. That is the only place where you can do it most effectively and most efficiently.
To somebody that's not involved with that industry, how would you describe functional safety? Spoke to my mum.
If I spoke to my grandma, I would say, got these cars on the road and they have got a lot of electronics and software. Functional safety is about preventing accidents involving human beings when there is a failure in these vehicles. For example, you press the brake and the vehicle doesn't stop. So anytime you have a human accident, an accident involving human beings, and it is caused by a malfunction or failure in electronics or software, preventing that is functional safety.
How do IBM tools help there?
So IBM DOORS, I know IBM DOORS when it was Telelogic, long before, and also Rhapsody. I used to be fond of, applying technology and playing with these new tools and technologies. The first thing is you need to know what needs to be done. And I think half the battle is won when you know what is to be done. Then the challenge is how to do it. And the third phase is how to do it more efficiently and effectively. When you are competing with the best of the best, the first two challenges are overcome by all your competitors. And it's how you differentiate in the third one is how can you do it efficiently without compromising quality? Can you do it in less time and less cost? I completely designed and developed a tactical mission system upgrade for an anti-submarine warfare helicopter. I did it in 2.5 years. I demonstrated the field prototype on a helicopter, and I did it at 20% of the budget. So half the time and 20% of the budget. And it was because of a radical innovation is I used the concept of COTS, commercially available off-the-shelf components in the defense, which was a very new concept. I'm talking of early, mid-90s in India. That's when DARPA and US Department of Defense started promoting COTS because custom components for the military are very few in number and pretty expensive because of the stringent requirements. And what therefore they said is, you can have commercial components and enclose them in a military-grade enclosure to prevent them from EMI, EMC radiations and thermal extreme environments and harsh vibrations environments. But the internal core, the processing cores could be commercial components. And that's exactly what I implemented. I completely changed the system architecture.
Rajiv, this is wonderful. I've got two questions, if I may. The first question is to follow on Steve's point. So what do you see the future of the relationship with IBM and yourselves in terms of, how do we mutually benefit each other? And then the other thing is, I need to remind you that you talked about the Duke of Edinburgh.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so I'll start with the Duke of Edinburgh. The late Prince Philip was a legendary, and he mentioned that, he spent 13 years in the Royal Navy, and when King George VI passed away much sooner than it was expected, he had to, let go his illustrious career in the Royal Navy, and he had to pick up supporting the Queen and the monarchical estate. So he actually became a ranger, and he was being interviewed on BBC, and he was asked, did you undergo any formal training to be a ranger? Because it's a pretty completely different from Royal Navy, and it has different skill sets required. Then he said, no, I spent 13 years in the Royal Navy, and the different circumstances that we were posed and the leadership that we had to demonstrate to lead people to, get rid of their fear when they are leading them unto death. That gives a kind of diverse skill set and experience and courage, and that you become brave to brave the unknowns. I completely resonated with him because I spent 13 plus years in the Indian Navy, and I was able to use those skills effectively in the different environment in the industry in India, in the UK, in Sweden, for customers in the US. Coming to your question about IBM, I worked with Steve in the past. We were working on an innovative project for the I-PACE, where we are specifying new features to be defined in electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, which are quite different from internal combustion engines. So, you imagine, and you could have a AC compressor running on an electric vehicle, but if the engine is stopped in a conventional internal combustion engine, you can't have the AC running. And besides, in electric vehicles, you need to also control the temperatures of the battery, which is a safety critical element, not just the cabin comfort. So I see our consulting services, a lot of our customers would probably already have IBM tools. And I think where we come in is to understand the context, the problem of the client. We have a good understanding of the IBM tools, and we create a unique context where the IBM solution becomes a part of the solution for the problem that the client is facing. So it increases the revenue on investment they have already made. It solves the current business challenges that they have. And thirdly, if customers don't use any IBM tools and there are opportunities that there are no tools there, then obviously having a good understanding, I would be able to propose this as an option to compete with others on a fair, equitable basis, how the challenges could be addressed and how the investment on the tools could be recovered in a pretty reasonable time frame.
Love it. Glad we've got you in our team, Rajiv, because you talk it so well. Rajiv, very quickly, in 60 seconds, aspirations for the future. What would you say to that?
Our mission is to help organizations create safe, secure, and reliable component systems and vehicles that avoid human accidents and fatalities and deliver consistently products that are safe, secure, reliant, and compliant on time and on budget. And our vision is every single vehicle that rolls out of the production floor is designed to be as safe and secure as possible at the time of its launch.
Rajiv, I wanted to thank you and Steve, my colleague, for your time on AI Talks podcast. Really interesting personal story. And I love the way it weaves very much into the way IBM thinks as well. And your comment around system thinking and safety, is paramount in everything we do, we hope, in terms of our software design. So Rajiv, thank you so much.
Paul, it was my pleasure, and thank you for having me again.
Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed listening to AI Talks, please tell others. Have a great day.